Hello there, Master Hellish here, and welcome to Army Analysis. Today, Tau Codex again, and we're looking at the troops section. I'm here with Arek, who's the wise and...
We'll stop that there.
We'll stop there. But the troops section in this one is a lot smaller than a lot of other armies.
Yeah, just the two. I mean, you count Devilfish, I suppose, the transport.
Dedicated transport doesn't really count.
No. We'll cover it here, though.
We'll have a look. Yes, we will cover it. First of all, though, the staple of every Tau army, the Fire Warrior team.
Yes. There's not really that much you can say about them. They're guardsmen, basically, aren't they?
They're guardsmen who don't have flashlights as guns.
Yes. Yeah, that's very true. The guns are fantastic. It's a big shame that they can't use them properly.
It is. You would have thought a shooting army would have a better ballistic skill.
You would, yeah.
Even if the guys themselves aren't very good, they're supposed to be a highly advanced race.
Yeah.
You'd have thought there'd be some sort of technology.
You think if you were wearing that stupid helmet, it would at least be a reason.
Yeah.
And give you some targeting information or something like that, instead of just,
Nothing at all, really.
Yeah.
But they're not expensive. They're very cheap. The standard squad is going to be, the same as a price as your HQ choice, without any upgrades. And then the additional Fire Warriors, they're quite cheap too.
Yeah, they're pretty cheap. Cheaper than sort of Space Marines. About double the price of a Guardsman. Your options, obviously, Pulse Carbine, Pulse Rifle.
I always go with the rifle. I know the Carbine has the ability to pin.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
But I prefer the range and the power of the other one.
Well, I mean, what a lot of people do is there's a tactic that's being referred to as the British gun line. Basically, you deploy your Pulse Carbine armed troops, 2 squads, Pulse Rifle at the front, Pulse Carbine at the back. So you maximise the amount of rapid fire you're going to get. When the enemy's close enough, you're probably going to get off 1 round of shooting with the Pulse Carbines, and then when the enemy charges, your supporting fire rule that the Tau get, which allows any friendlies within 6 inches to fire Overwatch for a friendly unit, which is just brilliant. You fire, if you pin the opponent on their charge, it's a failed charge. But the front squad also still get to fire Overwatch.
So if your pin fails, you've also got some extra firepower.
Absolutely. So it's extra firepower. You might stop the charge. If you do stop the charge, that squad's going to take a lot of beating next turn.
If you're not doing that, the other option is that we're going to talk about them more later in a different episode. But Pathfinders, if you're not using the marker lights on them, they do have carbines.
They do, yeah. They do the same job. They're a bit more expensive, but you can get some pretty weaponry in there.
That's very nice. So it's worth mentioning that now.
Yeah.
Also, you can take your drones. If you've got the points, I would say it's worth taking them. It depends what you're going to do. Yeah,
it does. I don't really see the gun drone being worth it in a Fire Warrior squad. They don't shoot as well as Fire Warriors. All right, they've got twin linked.
Yes,
but you
can take the drone. You can take the drone controller, which makes them use the same ballistic skill as the shooter.
Yeah, that's right.
But the ballistic skill isn't that tremendous
it's only
anyway.
1 point better.
I always take the commander in the squad.
Yeah, I think that +1 leadership. I don't know. I mean, I do realise why he's got +1 attack, because that's what they do on all of them.
Yeah.
I don't see how training more in a shooty squad would give you +1 attack.
I'm not quite sure
that's what
about
they've
that.
done.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But the leadership is worth it. Absolutely.
You don't want them to turn around and run.
No, and they will. It will happen. And even when they do, you need that leadership 8 to allow you to rally.
Yes.
And I have seen them save people's bacon against challenges. I've done it personally with my Overlord, ploughed forwards against no one in particular, and then received a challenge from a chasseur, I think we'll pronounce it, and then you can't hurt the squad.
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
You end up winning combat, but there's a good chance they won't go anywhere, and you just feel defeated. It
is good, and to have a character in the squad as well. And the points value for how much was the points for that? Let's say the upgrade for the. It's a very small points cost to get that extra leadership in there, it can save the whole squad if you've lost a couple of troops.
Absolutely, yeah, it really can. It's also worth noting that he can take the marker light and target lock. It's a bit pricey for my liking, but if you've got the spare points, he can then marker light stuff. You've got a rogue hammerhead or something that you don't want to fire loads of marker lights from the Pathfinders, because it's already got a good ballistic skill. You just need one,
Yeah.
and he's your man for that sort of thing.
Yeah, you got to remember that obviously it's not a wet network marker light, so the whole squad can't use it.
They can't use it.
But he has got a target lock, so he could go and marker light something while the rest of the squad do their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said previously, very useful, but a bit costly.
It is, yeah.
You have to pay for the upgrade for the commander, and then pay for your upgrade.
Absolutely.
But at least now in the new rules, the marker light comes with the target lock.
Yes.
I don't think it came with the target lock in the old rules.
Not previously, no. It was a separate purchase.
That is really good. And the next thing on the upgrades here, EMP grenades.
EMP grenades they're fantastic. Well, they are and they aren't. You can spend 4 or 5 games and never use them.
Never.
And just rue the day that you spent so many points on them. They're not massively expensive.
No, they're not.
But then they are an expense. They're per model points, so the more you've got, the more expensive they get. But that one time when they charge a Land Raider or a Monolith and it gets killed in combat by Fire Warriors, or you can throw them, of course, I think you are probably better off charging if the vehicle was stationary.
Yeah,
even if it moved, you've just got better odds of hitting.
Yeah.
And you'll just ruin somebody's day.
Yeah, that happened to me in one of my last games. I set up my front line, and I left a massive space at the back for them to deep strike a monolith in, and I had a team of just 8 Fire Warriors, nothing more than 8. And I did that because I was giving them EMP grenades. I deliberately had them round the corner in case there's something like this happened. And it worked fantastically. Yeah. It's that haywire rule that does it.
That's right, that's the one.
That's what you've got to remember, it's the haywire. Check that out if you don't know what it is. Fantastic thing. But don't give it to the whole army.
No, it's not worth it for that. Smaller squads is probably where you want it. Pathfinders is even a maybe as well, because they're going to infiltrate, they're going to get forward.
Yeah.
You might even find if you do well with your infiltration, you can move 6 inches turn 1, throw the grenade, I believe 8 inches. You might get a tank turn 1
if your opponents move first.
Yeah, and let's be honest, the Monolith is going to be quite far forward, so you might get a tank turn 1, and that's a big win.
It is a very big win. So points versus potential win, I think generally they're useful as long as you don't take it on the whole army, as long as you're selective about where you take it, and as long as you're clever about where you place them on the battlefield.
And as long as you're prepared to come up against Tyranids and realise that there's no tanks.
That's true.
And you've wasted all your points.
And a completely horrible point. Although if you're one of these people that creates different lists for different armies, then obviously you just wouldn't put them in.
Yeah.
And the last thing that I would probably worth talking about is the dedicated transport.
Yeah, the Devilfish is your dedicated transport. To be honest, I would associate it more with Pathfinders. Yeah. It can do alright for Fire Warriors, but it's not cheap for what it is for a transport. It's almost double a Rhino.
I think it's one of the most expensive transports in the whole entire 40k.
It's well armoured, don't get me wrong. Armour 12 on the front.
That's not bad.
It's a nice value to have. And it is a skimmer.
Yeah.
So you're going to get around terrain and stuff that would normally slow down your transports. But people like Eldar will point and laugh because they've got a better transport, cheaper.
Yeah.
The Necron version, the Ghost Ark, alright, it's more expensive, but considerably better armoured all the way around. And more hull points. So it's just better.
Yeah, so it's a lot of points for something that isn't fantastic, but it's your only option if you want to do your transport.
It is, yes. That's worth noting. You really don't have any other options on there unless you go Forge World.
It does have burst cannons and it does have gun drones, so it's not as if it hasn't got any weapons.
Yeah.
And you can exchange it for a smart missile system. At 10 points, if you're paying that large amount of points for your transport, I think those 10 points extra are probably worth it.
They are, and also I think the second upgrade, if you've got the marker lights in your army, if you put them, as I'd say, on the Fire Warrior team with your marker light and target lock, that then allows that Fire Warrior team to deal with a pesky tank.
Yeah.
You know, you just put the marker light on, fire a Seeker missile from your Devilfish, which your opponent probably hasn't identified as an anti-tank weapon.
Yes. So that's the dedicated transport, and a magical change for you.
Battery died.
It's fine. So the last thing in the troops, Kroot.
Kroot Carnivores.
Kroot. I used to like Kroot, and I say used to because I thought they were fun, because I would just do random things with them. I would throw them in here, infiltrate there, and they would generally just cause the opponent a lot of confusion and a lot of mess, and they would just get in the way. However, are they actually useful at doing anything other than just throwing them around the board?
No, if you use them like that, like a psychological tool, because they look quite nice, the models. I mean, if they come on the back of the board and your opponent doesn't know what they are, they look like a combat unit, your opponent's probably going to dedicate a lot of fire to them, and then realise that they're almost as useless as fire warriors in combat.
That's true.
But with a worse save. Go figure.
Yeah, with a worse save, but the points, they're
cheap.
They are cheap. So you can throw a big squad together for quite low points.
Yeah.
And, the other thing that I've used them for is just to make a wall. Because your opponent cannot move within an inch of an enemy unit.
No, that's right.
And if you want to block off a section of the board, you can stack behind stuff there. Mm-hmm. Now, if they haven't got anything that can jump or anything like that, or skimmers, it can be useful to block sections of the board off as well.
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much as of a roadblock as a speed bump.
Yeah.
You're gonna slow an opponent down if you've got enough of them. Toughness 3 with a save that you're not gonna get. Let's be honest. I don't know of any combat weapon that isn't at least AP 6. Even chainswords get an AP of 6 on there.
There's
Imperial Guardsmen,
apart from dash ones that you get here and there.
They are cheap. If you really, really have to make it combat useful, get the hounds in and outflank.
Oh yes, definitely get the hounds in.
The hounds get more attacks. They've got the same weapon skill, higher initiative, so they're going to strike before you Space Marines, that sort of stuff. With most of your combat troops there, they'll do a bit of damage, and they've got acute senses, so you can re-roll that crucial outflank.
So that is really quite good. I mean, I've had them before, and I've popped them in doing the outflanking. The hounds are fantastic. I have used riders before. They haven't really been that effective, and in the areas that they were effective, I felt I got lucky because I was able to get the squad where I wanted them. Luckily, normally if you've got the riders in there, it's more difficult to manoeuvre in my point of view.
It is to a degree. The cannon is nice. It can possibly tackle light armour if you have to. I believe it's strength 7.
But why would you? You've got a Tau army.
And also that wastes your entire squad's firepower because they will have to shoot the same target. He can actually do alright in a pinch in combat. He's got the same number of attacks as a hound, much higher strength, same weapon skill. So he can do alright, but lack of AP on his weapon.
Yeah. It's
not ideal. Which brings us on to the second most useless upgrade for the squad, which is the Shaper, the unit upgrade. Sorry, the character upgrade, if you will. He costs more than 2 crew, and is no more effective than 2 additional crew.
Yep.
Which is why I can't figure out, for the life of me, why anybody takes him. If you want leadership 8...
I was going to say, in the old rules, you had to take the Shaper to get your save.
That's right, yeah. But now, you get it anyway.
I can't see that. I'm not seeing it.
He can take a pulse carbine or pulse rifle. Well,
why?
your Tau, they're everywhere.
They've got them.
It's not a problem. And you pay for it even more, making him cost more than 3 crew.
Yeah.
So you're better off with more crew. My opinion of this squad is, because they've got stealth in the forests, and they can take sniper rounds for ludicrously cheap.
That's true.
And they've actually got bolters, basically.
Yeah.
That's what they've got. The AP, I think, is slightly worse. But they're bolters. They're strength 4, they're rapid fire, 24 inch range, and you can make them snipers very, very cheap for an already cheap model. Take a squad of 20 of them, throw them in a squad, they all have the precision, in a forest. They've all got precision.
If you've got the option for forests.
Yeah. But that gives them a cover save, depending on the forest, of probably a 4-up. So they're already harder to shift. And that many precision shots, power fist troops, special weapon troops, they're all going down.
Yeah, they are. And I'll tell you what, that is a brilliant thing to do, but definitely, if you don't know what terrain you're going to have...
Yeah, it's risky.
It'd be a big risk. So, overall, crew, they are cheap, probably not really that fantastic. There's no one special thing in there that makes me think, oh, they'd be good for this.
You take them for the outflank. Is I think what a lot of people do.
They're there to mess the enemy up, maybe delay them slightly, whilst you do other things.
Yeah, I just can't see them winning a combat. I mean, I know personally, I've charged a squad of a max squad, which is 20, I believe, with a couple of hounds in it from yourself, where they'd outflanked, and I only charged them with I think 3 of my Lit Guard, which are most people will know are not the best combat troops ever, despite the cost of them, and I won.
Yeah, you did.
It took a while, but I carved into pieces.
I think I did roll horrendously, though.
Yeah, but...
I always do in my crew.
Yeah. It's low strength. The weapon skill's okay, but it's low strength, it's no AP. So, if I remember rightly, you were on 6s to wound, and I'm getting a 3-up save. I was laughing all the way, and then 2s to wound in return.
I think it took a few turns.
2-3 turns.
But it happened. So, maybe good to cause some confusion, maybe good to use some blocking, probably not that great for a hell of a lot of stuff. There's not much through these army analysis we've gone, well, that's not really any use. But that,
no one likes Pirate
There's
Wars.
not a lot, but that I think is the closest thing in the Tau Codex to being pointless.
Yeah, I would give it the award for most pointless unit.
I mean,
pending some of the special characters.
You could probably get quite a few of them in a Tau army, though. You could make a Crewty army. And if you did that, it's a completely different army. I think it doesn't make the Tau look like Tau.
Yeah, I mean, you could almost take them as a separate. There are troops, so you're not going to fill up your valuable slots elsewhere. You could take 2 or 3 squads if you've got the slots spare, and just pile up. You know, get into some combat, cause a mess for your opponent.
Possibly the only thing you might think they're useful for is taking objectives. Large number of things that can outflank, where you can choose which side they outflank, and they can take the objectives. However, how long are they going to last?
They're just not, unless you're smart enough to put the objective in a forest and then infiltrate your crew into the forest. Then they might last a while.
Well, there we go. There's the troops section. I've been Master Hellish. This has been Arek. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.